Good evening. Health authorities have...
These vehicles may or may not have mechanical...
It will be a trial within a trial.
Louise Neimer at the Ontario...
The city does have a bylaw that...
Tonight, student shoots teacher.
Tonight, Canada's best.
You got an update on this?
What's the word on the street tonight?
There's a big storm coming tonight. All mobiles, weather advisory. Another big show. That's right.
What happened here tonight? How long you were alive?
Good evening. Our top story tonight, Metro Police probing a mysterious death in Scarborough.
A body was found late this afternoon in the garbage room of a high-rise on McCowan Road. Police have still not identified the victim. At this point, no charges have been laid, and a post-mortem is being conducted at this hour.
An Etobicoke teacher is very lucky to be alive tonight after being shot during a class he was teaching. We get the details tonight from Mary Garofalo.
It all began about 1:30 this afternoon. 55-year-old Frank Keyser, a science teacher at Richview Collegiate, was supervising a biology test going on in his class.
There was a knock on the door, and the teacher went and answered it, and the boy was had his gun pointed at the teacher, and he said, "Click." And then the teacher had a temper tantrum, and then he just said, "You shouldn't have that because it's really dangerous." Like, he thought it was real, and so he went over to the guy, and then he said, and then he pulled the trigger, and the next thing I heard was, "Call the police, I've been shot." It was really scary. Like, everybody was in a state of shock.
Police seized a .22 caliber rifle, a knife, and 85 rounds of ammunition, and charged a 16-year-old student who attends Richview. Keyser was taken to Queensway Hospital, where he underwent surgery this afternoon and had a bullet removed from his left arm.
As I've learned, actually, that he was doing fairly poorly in school. Science was not one of his better subjects, and consequently, frustration led up to this incident.
I knew this boy from our middle school days when we went to school together, and at that time, when I knew him, he was a regular guy. He in a way, he liked attention, but this is out of his character. This is totally out of his character.
This is the first time something like this has ever happened in Etobicoke, and today's incident has shaken up both the students and the staff at the school. It's also opened up the question of security.
I've had discussions with the school. Uneasy would be an understatement. They're rather concerned about it. They are going to be discussing security with the superintendent and get some direction from him.
The 16-year-old boy, whose identity cannot be revealed because he is a juvenile, has been charged under the Young Offenders Act with attempted murder, possession of a dangerous weapon, and concealing a dangerous weapon. He's due to appear in court tomorrow. In Etobicoke, I'm Mary Garofalo for CityPulse Tonight.
Charges tonight in that spectacular tanker truck explosion we first showed you last night. A Metro truck driver was killed when his truck collided with a flatbed and exploded in flames. Crime specialist Mark Lele tells us the other driver tonight faces a charge of impaired driving.
Milton firefighters, called for help, couldn't even get close to the blaze. A tanker loaded with 21,000 liters of unleaded gasoline crashed and burned trying to avoid another accident in the eastbound lanes in front of him. The flames buckled and almost melted part of the concrete and steel James Snow Parkway overpass. The damage was more apparent this morning as Ministry of Transport experts examined the scene. The bridge looks like a write-off, a $5 million rebuilding project at least. The victim, police say, never had a chance. Although the tanker driver is unaccounted for, just behind me here is a small piece of twisted and charred remains of the cab of this truck. They're waiting for experts from the Center of Forensic Science to come to the scene here before the noon hour to try and extract any remains that might still be here.
I saw the trailer sitting across the road, so I slammed on my brakes as hard as I could.
Morris Foster of Acton rammed the double flatbed tractor trailer, which was straddled across all three lanes. He says the tanker swung around him, and seconds later, the explosion.
I felt something else hit me from behind, and then there was like an explosion, and I guess I sort of got out of my car and I ran away from the scene of the accident.
OPP charged the driver of the flatbed truck. This was all that was left. 37-year-old Arthur Jeffrey of Berks Falls is charged with dangerous driving and impaired driving causing death and driving over 80 milligrams of alcohol in his blood. He was ordered held in jail until April 14th at a bail hearing in Milton Court late today. The 401 will probably be closed for weeks.
And we anticipate that the bridge structure itself may have to be taken down. Thus would close the highway for approximately 2 weeks.
Police don't know why Jeffrey's truck pulled across the lanes. The other trucker's name is being withheld until he's positively identified with dental records. Mark Daly in Milton, CityPulse tonight.
The transportation of hazardous chemicals by rail through Metro was on the agenda at City Hall today. CP Rail officials are protesting a decision by the city to ask the federal government to limit the speed of trains with dangerous cargo to 25 miles per hour. The railway claims that speed has nothing to do with derailments.
CP Rail is aware of no study to date that has concluded that safety of trains operating over the Class 1 mainline track is directly related to speed. CP Rail is very proud of its safety record in the North American railway industry. CP Rail had a ratio of 3.31 accidents per million locomotive miles in 1985.
The City Services Committee decided to uphold its decision despite the CP arguments. The committee went one step further, deciding to ask the federal government to limit speeds on trains carrying hazardous substances everywhere.
And the cost of inner-city commuter transportation also concerning Metro citizens tonight. As Michelle Gibson tells us, a coalition is calling on the TTC to cut fares for the needy.
I can't afford TTC.
The Coalition for a Public Transit Reduced Fare program has been trying to help people on low and fixed incomes since 1984. Although they have had no success, they are trying to secure half-price Metro passes for those in need.
A full monthly Metro pass costs $41.50. That's often twice as much as what a person on fixed income would pay for their monthly transportation.
If a half-price Metro pass was also $20, then I would buy that Metro pass, and the TDC would still have my $20, but I'd be riding twice as often.
Our income is $684 per month on welfare. I'd say now that we spend about $50 per month on TTC alone, just for me and the 2 children. But I know that I'd be able to feed my children better if TTC wasn't so expensive. Because if we didn't walk half the places I go to, it would cost me at least $100 per month for TTC.
The TTC has done a study of the half-price proposal. They have found without funding from the Metro and or the provincial governments, they would lose between $22 and $26 million per year.
The TDC's position is that it's our responsibility to run a transit system, not provide subsidy to anybody directly.
The discussion is far from over. The TTC is willing to provide a half-price pass as long as their expenses are covered. The coalition is looking for a way. Mary Louise is hoping for the best.
It's really hard on us.
Michelle Gibson, CityPulse tonight.
A compensation plan has been worked out for travelers who booked holidays through Unitours. As we hear from Jeff Ansell tonight, to be eligible, the tickets had to be purchased from a registered Ontario travel agent.
Hoping to, quote, keep bad stories about the travel business out of the media, a special travel industry emergency committee has taken over the operating of Unitours holiday packages.
We intend to see as little disruption as possible to the clients and to have as many as possible complete their trips that they have purchased.
Telexes were sent to all hoteliers holding Unitour bookings to guarantee payment by the Travel Industry Compensation Fund.
That fund guarantees each traveler affected by the Unitours bankruptcy up to $3,500 in compensation. But some holiday packages are still operating. Unitours has no departures scheduled tomorrow, but we can tell you with certainty that from Thursday to Tuesday, April 1st, all Unitours holiday packages will leave as planned, except the flights to Paris and Morocco, which have been canceled. There will be an April 5th departure to Cuba, but those of you booked on other Unitour packages between April 2nd and 8th will find out this Thursday whether those flights are still on. Those flights booked after April 8th, will they be canceled? Will they be picked up by other tour wholesalers?
My guesstimate, and I underline guesstimate, is that nothing will operate past April the 8th.
Unitours, whose liabilities are as yet undetermined, has been operating packages to Hawaii, Jamaica, and other such climes for the past 25 years, and is now in the hands of a bankruptcy trustee who will either look for a buyer or liquidate assets.
There will be a meeting of creditors sometime within the next 3 weeks.
If you are a Unitours customer affected, you're advised to get your claim into the compensation fund by April 15th. Claim forms are available either through your travel agent or at the Consumer and Commercial Relations Ministry, 555 Yonge Street, 5th floor. Jeff Ansell, Young and Wellesley, CityPulse Tonight.
Here's an early look at what's happening in the streets at this point as we check in live with our chief assignment editor, Glenn Cole.
Thank you very much, Gordon. The balmy temperatures are having a calming effect on our populations, it would seem. Very quiet evening, and we have no major accidents on the go. Toronto Fire on the scene of a working fire at 828 Kingston Road. Details are sketchy at the moment, but there are no reports of major injuries. Tonight on Late Street Beat Crimestoppers, the search is on for bandits who have been responsible for 4 drugstore holdups. But right now, back to the studio in Gordon.
Yeah. Leaded gasoline may soon be a thing of the past. The federal government has announced it will virtually phase out leaded gas by the end of 1992 in a move to improve the environment. Environment Minister Tom McMillan says the government does not want to impose a total ban yet because other gasoline additives used to boost performance are even more harmful to our health.
If you ban lead from gasoline without substitutes being in place, readily available, what's going to be used instead of lead to achieve the same octane levels? The policy that some environmentalists, with all due respect, embrace has effects on the environment that are worse than what they're trying to get rid of.
The government will spend $1 million on an advertising campaign to convince motorists who use leaded gas they are poisoning the air. Also in Ottawa tonight, a tired but determined Jacques Hébert is taking exception against a just-released government report. The report indicates participants in the Etobicoke program abuse drugs and alcohol. Hébert claims the same problems exist in our school system.
They use drugs, and they use alcohol, and they are delinquent, and they are violent in our schools. Should we close our schools because of that? We don't close our school. We said, well, we have to live with these young people. In Etobicoke, it's exactly the same.
Hébert is now into the 16th night of his hunger strike. He is demanding the government reestablish the Etobicoke program. The government is getting rid of the paper version of the $1 bill. Replacing it will be a $1 coin to be introduced in January and phased in over a 3-year period. It will be 11-sided, made of gold-colored nickel, and slightly heavier and larger than a quarter. The coin is expected to save the government $175 million over the next 20 years.
Still ahead on CityPulse tonight, Muammar Gaddafi on the Libyan-U.S. conflict. Our top international story tonight, Libya is threatening to expand what it calls its holy war against the United States. Reports from Tripoli tonight say Libya may take its fight beyond the Gulf of Sidra to U.S. military bases across the Mediterranean. American jets today hit more Libyan targets inside the so-called line of death. We get the details tonight from Fred Francis.
The 6th Fleet controlled the Gulf of Sidra for a second day by using a blanket of electronic jamming and a variety of high-tech missiles. Despite erroneous Pentagon reports, the Libyans have not fired a missile since yesterday. However, the cruiser Yorktown intercepted a Libyan patrol boat just after midnight. The Yorktown's captain believed the Libyan craft was headed for an aircraft carrier and destroyed it with 2 Harpoon missiles. A half hour later, American planes picked up a radar signal coming from the Soviet-built SAM-5 missile site, which had been hit the day before. American attack aircraft hit the SAM site a second time, using HARM missiles like this one, which home in on the Libyan radar signal. And another Libyan patrol boat, heavily armed with missiles, was intercepted just after daybreak by planes from the Coral Sea and the Saratoga. Pentagon spokesman Robert Sims.
Damage to that was considerable. The boat was dead in the water, on fire.
This electronic countermeasures airplane, the EA-6B Prowler, is being used by the fleet in the Gulf. The Prowler puts out such a potent electronic jamming signal that one Pentagon official said all 4 of the Libyan's coastal radars and everything else in the country has been blinded since Sunday. The Prowler is also the reason the Soviet missiles fired at fleet aircraft have not come close. The Prowler so badly scrambles the lock-on guidance system of the SAM-5 missiles that they go out of control. The radar jamming is one reason Libyan MiGs have not challenged the fleet. Another reason, according to Helmut Sonnenfeld, is that the Soviets are holding Gaddafi back.
And I think it is quite possible that the Soviets would just as soon not have another embarrassment in having quite modern Soviet equipment do badly against the United States.
Fred Francis, NBC News, the Pentagon.
It is not a time of saying it is a time of war, time of confrontation.
What would it take?
And we emphasized that the Gulf of Sirte is ours. We emphasized this by sacrifices, by blood.
What about the Americans who are living here in Libya?
They are our guests. We are civilized people.
In Tripoli today, mass anti-American demonstrations. More than 2,000 people vowed to join suicide squads to fight the United States. And the exchange of gunfire between Libya and the U.S. started when the Americans crossed into what they claim are international waters. The Libyans claim the Gulf of Sidra belongs to them. Chum Radio's Dick Smythe says the Libyans may have a point. Here he is now with tonight's editorial comment.
Does all the ominous news streaming out of the Mediterranean have a familiar sort of ring to it? You've heard it before. Right of free access, right of free passage, right is might. I mean, today those things being said about the Gulf of Sidra. Last summer, they were being said about the Canadian Arctic during the voyage, the intrusion of the American icebreaker, the Polar Sea. The Libyans were rash enough, maybe brave enough, to take a potshot at the damned Americans. What would have happened if we had done that? I mean, would we have triggered all this international nail-biting that's going on right now? Would Ronald Reagan and White House mouthpiece Larry Speaks be blathering on about freedom and all that Yankee crapola, making us look like the bad guys? I'm no fan of Muammar Gaddafi, quite the contrary. One of our guys put it quite well today when he said he had no desire to die in a struggle between insanity and senility. But the fact remains, Gaddafi may have a valid claim to the waters in question. They lie between 2 distinct points of land. And that is precisely the point of marine law that the United States used to argue its right for fishing beds off the east coast of Canada.
The weather is next with David Onley. And David, listen, I could get used to this weather.
Well, I think we all could, Ann, but before we get to consistent weather like this, there's a few bumpy potholes in the road, like tomorrow. Stay tuned. The weather's next. Be too long before Ontario places really are geared up for another season. We had a foretaste of that today. Let's take a look at the record book. First of all, starting with our sun times for tomorrow, 6:10 in the morning and 6:37 in the evening. As far as the record book goes, well, we set one today, a high of 19 degrees Celsius. That's a new record high for March 25th. The previous high was 18 degrees Celsius, set back in 1963. And the norm for this time of year is 7 degrees, so we're way above that. In fact, the norm for a high is what our low is tonight, 7 degrees Celsius. The record low, minus 15, set back in 1885. The normal low for this time of year is about minus 2. Let's take a look at present conditions right now as we go live to Queen Street. We can see that the present temperature is 15 degrees Celsius. The wind is from the southwest at 17 kilometers an hour. The barometer is falling from 102.1 The relative humidity is 48% and the pollution count is 10. Anything below 32 is considered acceptable. And as we go up to the satellite map tonight, you'll see Toronto indicated by the star, and you can note how the jet stream is well to the north of Toronto, or at least just to north of Toronto, and that's one of the reasons it was as warm as it was today. And the low pressure and the high pressure area helped together to pump southwest winds towards us. And the low pressure area is going to be bringing some clouds our way overnight. And it's also going to be bringing some showers tomorrow to the southern Ontario area. We can see in the southern Ontario graphics how a few showers will be occurring by midday, and then heavier showers towards the latter part of the day and into the evening. Fortunately, however, it looks like we're going to be in for another warm day as we get up to a high of 10 degrees. That's 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Then things will be clearing up for Thursday, but a little bit cooler as we only get up to 5. Friday, 10 degrees and partly sunny. Saturday, 12 degrees and a few showers. Sunday, partly sunny and 6 degrees. So tomorrow looks kind of showery, but a high of 10 degrees Celsius. That's it for now, Ann. Back to you.
Thank you, David. Now we bring you part 2 of our special news serial, Infertility, The Secret Sorrow. Ectopic and tubal pregnancies are a known cause of infertility, but some couples never learn why they can't conceive. Tonight, I'll examine some of the medical advances that are having success in the fight against infertility, a surgical technique, and an exciting new program called Sperm Wash. Dr. Schuber and his surgical team are preparing for delicate microsurgery. His patient is infertile because her pelvis is almost entirely obliterated by scar tissue, lesions, and loops of bowel, the legacy of an ectopic pregnancy.
If you look at this first film over here, you can see the thin line of the tube and the end of the tube beginning to fill. And then on this picture, you see that same with a bit more spill of dye out around the tube.
Now, what do you hope to achieve by this microsurgery?
What we're going to hope to do is to remove those adhesions, free up that scar tissue, and free up that one remaining tube that she has and the ovary on that side so that it will be able to produce an egg which then can freely get out and be picked up by the tube, and hopefully she'll be able to become pregnant on her own. The ovary is in there, and all those little cruddy things on the surface are adhesions. Okay? The reddish, whitish stuff. Magnificent. What a team.
The sperm sample is assessed under the microscope for motility and viability.
Dr. Jennifer Dorrington is judging a sample which contains fewer than 20 million sperm, the narrow definition of low sperm count, and the leading cause of infertility in men. Dr. Dorrington heads the University of Toronto Sperm Wash program at the Toronto General Hospital.
In cases of oligospermia, where there's a low sperm count, we bypass the cervix. By this means then, by delivering 1 million or more sperm into the uterine cavity, you can achieve pregnancy. Decentrifuge at a low speed initially to bring down cellular debris.
A centrifuge separates unwanted debris and proteins from the sample's most active motile sperm. A small sperm concentration is then nourished in culture fluid to energize the cell's swimming action. Sperm wash was recommended for Jill and John Devonish, who were healthy yet infertile.
John was trying to juggle his business trips around, the time when I would be ovulating, and so it's continually on your mind.
And to have to physically perform at a certain time of the month to accomplish what you're trying to achieve.
Yes,
it is very, very stressful.
So lovemaking loses its romance.
Certainly does.
It becomes very mechanical.
It's very mechanical.
Yeah.
This instrument, this cannula, is the instrument you use to inseminate the woman during the sperm wash. Is that correct?
The cannula is threaded through the cervix into the uterine cavity. The sperm then released into the uterine cavity. And after that, we keep our fingers crossed and hope that everything goes well.
We had some problems, so we needed some help, scientific help.
We wouldn't have been satisfied if we hadn't explored every avenue.
Many women like Jill, who delayed childbearing into their 30s, receive drugs called Clomid or Serafin to enhance their own ovulation. But when they need an extra push, they are given Pergonal, a powerful hormone-like drug which hyperstimulates egg production in the ovary. Now, Pergonal is often responsible for multiple births. Jill Devenish was receiving Pergonal when she and John entered the sperm wash program 4 months ago.
We thought possibly twins because there are twins in our family. We found out about 8 weeks after I had the news that I was pregnant that, in fact, I'm expecting triplets.
Quite a shock. And you suddenly have a full-blown family, instant family.
When we heard the news, we were just so thrilled. I think we
were on the phone to England.
Within about 5 minutes. Yes, yeah. It was
very thrilled.
It was very hard to believe it really had happened.
It's a little bit hard to accept after 5 years of trying.
Yeah.
Sperm wash has a 25% success rate. 40 babies this year will be born as a result of this new technique.
10 have been born already. All fine, healthy babies.
And our wishes for 3 more fine, healthy babies for Jill and John Devenish this August. Tomorrow, I'll tell you about the University of Toronto's in vitro fertilization program at the Toronto General Hospital.
Here's a look at what's happening out in the city now as we go live to Much Music Control and Jim Coburn.
Well, coming up on entertainment, City's a winner and Teenage Head is back at it.
Your hands off me. What's your son? I dislike being touched.
The first major revival of Terence Radican's drama Ross opened tonight at the Royal Alexandra Theatre. It was last staged in 1960 in London, England. The story is about the life of Lawrence of Arabia. British film, TV, and stage star Simon Ward leads an all-star British cast. Ross continues until May the 3rd.
Good night, sailor. If I make too much noise in the night, wake me up.
Last night, the Oscars. Tonight, the Canadian Programming and Promotion Awards called CanPro. The awards are given to privately owned Canadian television stations for excellence in programming and promotion, and City TV was well represented.
The 1986 winner is City TV Toronto for community projects.
And drop by the Stitches City Video Dome. Dome tickets available with special t-shirt purchase at Stitches or at the park. The Chin International Picnic, June 29th through July 1st. Don't miss it.
Accepting the award is John Gunn, promotion manager.
Come on down.
John Gunn found himself at the podium 4 times to accept awards for the work of our promotions department.
The new Toronto tees available exclusively at Stitches. When the stars come out at the Festival of Festivals, City TV's got it covered.
And they'll let you know how your vote counts.
Dynasty on the line. You're invited to be here for CityPulse's live election coverage, Thursday at 8.
City's production manager, Marcy Martin, accepted awards for JoJo Chinto's series Down and Out in Parkdale.
Don't drink it all. I want some of it.
We have no money for entertainment whatsoever.
Sharon Tiber found refuge in Parkdale after separating from a husband she claims abused her. Her only income is a regular welfare check.
And Growing Up Gay, produced and directed by Randy Gulliver.
This is a problem that we can no longer ignore.
I would just say to myself, why don't you just kill yourself?
A City TV special.
If a child tells you that they're gay, immediately you ask yourself, what did I do wrong?
Congratulations to all the City TV winners and others. In Hollywood last night...
Hey, Silly! Damn it, get here!
In Hollywood last night, the Motion Picture Academy's overwhelming rejection towards The Color Purple dampened party spirits. The film about a rural black woman's struggle for self-worth had gone into the awards night with 11 nominations but won nothing. It has many people upset, including co-producer Quincy Jones, who said, I think there is a very strong social implication, and if that's the way it is, we'll have to do something about it.
I can't move. I can't move. I need to see her eyes. I feel like once I see...
Police Academy number 3 is shaping up and coming out a gangbusters. The madcap cops dislodged the movie Gung Ho from first place at the box office this past weekend. Warner Brothers is happy they've opened it in 1,788 theaters, which makes it their year's biggest opening. The film was filmed here in Toronto.
Backward! You're up.
Yay! No! Backward!
My brother John and I grew up in Hamilton, and a few of our buddies at high school are members of the rock and roll band Teenage Head. In the late 70s, they were the most exciting group touring across Canada. But just as they looked like they were going to break into the North American market, they faded away. But now they're making a comeback, and recently we dropped by and talked with them. All right, where are these guys? How you doing?
The new release of the band's independently produced album, Trouble in the Jungle, has helped and motivated their comeback.
Because we've been able to work out west and play live, like, consistently, it's actually very interesting, because now we actually do have something to promote and work on. It gives us a lot more legitimate reason to travel and to play certain dates, without just doing it just for the sake of playing. We now have specific reason to do it.
And what's the specific reason or the goal that you're going for at this point?
Oh, to sell the record. And plus we have a new video out, which, well, our first video out too, so that's something else too to work with.
I take a chance. I can dance anyway. Frantic romantic. We're in a panic.
Teenage Head have been represented by major record labels in the past and look forward to that luxury again. But there is a lesson to be learned producing independently.
It makes you work a lot more. It doesn't let you sit back and become lazy. It makes you go out there and makes you also establish goals and try to reach them instead of letting somebody else reach them for you.
We used to sit and listen to them in a Hamilton basement. That's it for entertainment. Back to you.
Thank you, Jim. We'll talk to you later on. The latest in sports coming your way next with Jim McKinney. And Howie, we have hockey tonight.
Annie, we've got the Washington Capitals taking control in the Patrick Division. Matchup in the NHL tonight, the Caps and the Bruins. Caps won ahead of the Flyers in the Patrick Division. The Bruins fighting off the Sabres and Hartford in the Adams. In the first period, Bruins up 1-0. Alan Howarth make that, coming back off the injury list. Number 32 for Allen. 1-all. They go up 2-1 in the second. They're up 3-1. Franceschetti laced it behind Riggin. Riggin knocked it in his own net. Simmer to Crowder, his 34th, 3-2. Bruins tie it up. Telvin, the shot, tipped by Kluzak. 3-all. Caps roared back in the third. Thanks for coming out. Rangers at the Meadowlands tonight. They're 3 back at Pittsburgh in the Atom. This is their game in hand. Patrick to LaRouche. Rouche with his 18th. Past Chevrolet, 1-0 Rangers. The Devils, Johnson to Perry Anderson. On the far side on Van Beesbroek, 1-all. Nice play here by Mel Bridgman to Mueller. The shot. Verbeek with the rebound. 2-1. Here come the Rangers. Ruotsalainen around the net. Maloney jamming in front. 2-all. 5-4 final Rangers. They're only 1 back of the Penguins.
Elsewhere in the league tonight, the Oilers bombed Detroit 7-2. Messier with 2. He's got 33 now. The Blues lead the Islanders 2-0 in the third. Millen's got the shutout going there. The Marlies lost 3-1 to the Peach tonight at the Gardens. They're down 2-0. It's Leafs and Minnesota at the Gardens tomorrow night. Jays bombed the Twins 7-1 today, a 7-run 8th inning. Willie Upshaw with a 2-run shot. Luis Leal with the win. Tickets are going to be a big problem this summer, and it's no different in the spring.
Here are the starting lineups for Saturday's game for the Detroit Tigers. Managed by Marty Anderson.
Those horror stories about long lineups at the ticket windows, scalpers, tough to get a ticket. Well, the answer is yes and no. Depends on who's playing.
Tigers are the biggest draw down here, and I'll tell you why. Outside of Canadians, there's more Michigan people than any other state that we have.
What are the other tough tickets?
New York Yankees, of course, and the New York Mets. And then we have some that we can't get. You can give them away, but you can't sell them as fast. Like Minneapolis, for example, they're very slow.
The message: if you plan to visit Florida and take in a few preseason games, take advantage of the Blue Jays' mail-order advance ticket sales. In other words, plan ahead, or you'll have to join these latecomers out behind the fence in left field. Well, it's free out there. Now, my first stint as a jock reporter. How will the American League East turn out? Jesse Barfield's choice? Toronto, Detroit, Yankees, Baltimore. As for Kirk Gibson of Detroit, he hasn't the time to answer questions about nothing. Well, good luck to you too, buddy. But who needs Gibson when the old master is available?
Well, we're going to let Toronto be the favorites. You know, they won last year, so we'll let them open on April the 7th, and they'll be the favorites. But I learned a long time ago, when January 1st comes of a new year, nobody really cares who won the year before.
Where's Detroit going to be?
I don't know. We got a good ball club. We're going to be in the race, and we'll be around all year. And we'll be in the race up to at least 2-3 days before the season's over. So that's how good we're going to be.
Now you can see why they sent me. These guys answer just the same as politicians. Colin Vaughan, Grant Field Dunedin, CityPulse tonight.
The Thoroughbreds opened at Greenwood this afternoon. Due to a serious case of the shorts, I chose not to attend, but Salzburg was more than happy to take my place.
Well, how you doing today?
Not too bad, sir.
Well, here you go. I can use all the help I can get. Pray for me.
Thank you very much.
One, please. Thank you. Boy, oh boy, I'm not staying in on a day like today. You certainly couldn't have picked a nicer day to open up the season.
It's great. It's, well, it's Florida weather, and we've got some Florida horses running today, which is appropriate, and I think perhaps they have a good chance to win, too, because of their background down there.
Bruce, I understand the track's going with a big ad campaign this year.
We will be, yes. It's a new campaign coming out in May that will be different from the usual racetrack ads where horses are running around the track. These will be a little different, hopefully humorous, and hopefully will attract people to the racetrack.
Now, do you have any tips for me today?
I have a couple, but I'm not allowed to tout.
Let's see now. You can always get tips around the paddock area. Tell me, who do we like in this third race?
I like the 4-horse here, Something Wicked.
Something Wicked, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll see you after the race.
Okay.
Somebody just gave me the 4. What do you think of him?
I think it's the nicest looking filly in here. It's a very beautiful looking chestnut. It went 25 and 1 breezing out of the gate the other day. Should be right there.
What do you think of the 4-horse? It's a good horse, huh? I agree with you. Let's go bet the 4. Shut out. This horse wins, I'm going to be sick.
Gusty Morn takes over the lead. Jane's Reward up there second on the outside. That's Complice on the extreme outside with Susu's Revenge in the center.
Don't win. Don't win.
Here's Complice closing very quickly on the outside with Toll Tail coming on again.
Don't win.
Toll Tail up there to take over the lead. Coming down to the wire. Toll Tail on the outside with Gusty Morn head and head.
Oh, baby. I'm ahead of the game. The 4 that wasn't around. just call me Lucky Russ Salzberg at Greenwood Racetrack for CityPulse tonight.
Lucky Russ claimed that he broke even. That's it for sports, Gord.
Notice when you two guys were talking earlier on, you were glad that you didn't get the assignment.
Well, yeah, I had a bad experience there last year. Unfortunately, opening day coincided with a payday, I think, Gordon.
Found a little light in the pockets, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Well, better luck next time. Thanks, Howie. Coming up next on City Biz, Ontario's newest brewery opens shop.
Cheers. The brew is true. Cheers. The brew is true.
A good one.
Now, Yellow Pages City Biz.
Machine is boring mill setup operator.
Hey, Dr. Garment, how much more money do you want?
For the connoisseur, there's a new brew in town. It's called Connors, and it's the latest player on the microbrewery block.
Here you go. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy it. Love to hear your comments.
Our target market is a discriminating beer drinker, a beer drinker who's tasted beer in the past, who's probably tasted all of the various forms of beer, and is now looking for a beer that he can call his own. We use a copper kettle. We're also using a fire brew process. We're all natural. We're distributing primarily through existing licensees. We also have two take-home containers, a 1-liter bottle and a 2-liter bottle. Our objective here is to be a very small microbrewery, brewing a world-class group of products, and we think we've done that.
Meanwhile, good news is brewing in the retail sector. Sales are up, and that means that Metro's economy is thriving.
Canadian stores sold 12% more in dollar terms last January than they did a year earlier. And that translates into an extra $112 million of sales in the metro area.
Retail sales in the Toronto area are being fueled by very strong economic conditions. Toronto is by far the healthiest economy of all the regional centers in Canada. We're finding more confidence in the economy, and with that, a willingness to spend.
What are the hot selling items? Clothing. Sales are holding up as people stock up for spring.
There you go, for the next day.
And also selling well is this hot item, mountain bikes.
And they're coming in some gorgeous colors. In fact, why don't you take this lemon yellow Norco Sasquatch out for a test drive, Peter? Okay. Take it outside and give it a ride.
Thank you. Where is it? Just at the back?
Just at the back here.
If you want one of these, it'll cost you between $200 to $1,200. And this supermodel comes in at $589.
And of course, another hot selling item in Toronto is housing. House sales are skyrocketing, and that means when somebody buys a house, they buy all sorts of other things. They have to buy things to fill up the empty rooms. For example, furniture and rugs and washing machines and dishwashers. And all those things help retail sales.
The one worry, car sales could be slackening off. They account for 30% of the total value of all retail sales. A slump in sales there could hurt.
I'm Peter Silverman for Yellow Pages City Biz.
With a final look at the streets of our town in this week's edition of Crimestoppers, here's our chief assignment editor, Glenn Cole. Glenn?
Thank you, Ann. One man was taken to East General Hospital after suffering smoke inhalation at an apartment fire at 828 Kingston Road. 2 police officers were treated at the scene by Metro ambulance personnel. Toronto Fire is now mopping up. Time now for Crimestoppers. Tonight, information is needed on 2 bandits. Crimestoppers and Metro Police are seeking information on 2 bandits that they believe to be responsible for 4 holdups in the east end of Toronto.
3 of the holdups occurred during February, one of which was the Shoppers Drug Mart at 855 Kingston Road. But on Thursday, March the 6th, around 4 in the afternoon, the bandits returned to the Drug Mart for the second time. He forced the druggist to unlock the drug cabinet and remove bottles of Nova Histex and Percodad.
Fill it up! Hurry!
The second suspect opened the cash register and removed a quantity of cash.
Okay, let's go!
Then both fled the store. Suspect number 1, male white, 5'10", stocky build, wearing a yellow balaclava, beige ski jacket, mauve pants, white running shoes, and beige gloves. He carried the gym bag with white handles and was armed with a long-barreled handgun. Suspect number 2, male white, wearing blue jeans, gray running shoes, and armed with a 6-inch hunting knife. How can you help? Sergeant Bob Lord, Metro Police.
You could receive a $1,000 cash reward for supplying us with information that leads to an arrest in this case. In addition, Crimestoppers is offering rewards of up to $1,000 for information leading to an arrest in any serious case. As a caller, you will never have to identify yourself, nor will you ever have to testify in court. You will receive payment through a special code-numbered system. If you have any information, call the Crimestoppers number at 222-8477. That's 222-TIPS.
And a quick recap on Queen Street weather specialist David Onley.
Thanks very much, Glenn. Showers tomorrow and a high of 10 degrees or 50. Gord, back to you.
Thank you, David. That's City Pulse for tonight. I'll have the next tomorrow night at 6. Until then, thanks for tuning in. Good night.
Good night.
Don't touch that converter. Those fine folks from Mellonville have quality comedy coming right up. SCTV next.